On a Thursday night at Pickett League basketball, I got a crash course on power and sixth grade relations. I was working at a snack bar, and there's kids, and they were talking about everything from the cutest girl in sixth grade to who's better, Kobe or LeBron. And each kid, when they raise up on their stool and raise their voices, and they try to like get presence over each other, whether like if they could see over each other's heads, that if they're looking down on them, they'd have more influence and their words would strike with more power. And this just brought me back to the Henley chart we discussed on power at the beginning of the semester.
The Oneonta Boys and Girls Club, Age Shapes Interactions. A common theory observed at the Boys and Girls Club is the social learning theory. This theory can be observed in the Boys and Girls Club because the little kids are always trying to do what the bigger kids are doing. For example, on October 26, 2011, I ran the gross anatomy room at the club, and the little kids were coming into the room just because the big kids were coming in. The little kids look up to the older kids regardless of whether or not they're being a positive influence or a negative influence.
The concept I'm going to link to the Boys and Girls Club this afternoon is called social disorganization. The reason I can relate social disorganization theory to the Boys and Girls Club is because many of the kids who come to the Boys and Girls Club come from homes that are not particularly well, and this is what leads them to go to illegal activities. The event I'm going to talk about happened on October 1st, 2011. The reason I can talk about this event so clearly is because after the football team lost to our rivals Ithaca, and then me and a couple of my buddies were going out. We were going to go down to the bars in Oneonta, and then I saw one of the teenagers from the Boys and Girls Club, and he looked pretty intoxicated. Him and his friends. I didn't recognize his friends, and I remember he looked at me, and he said, "Hey, tough loss or whatever." I was at the game, and I said, "Well, thank you." Then he says, "I'll probably see you at the bar tonight." That's pretty bad that a 15-year-old was that drunk. I didn't see him at the bar that night, and I think the reason I didn't see him is because he passed out probably at one of his friends' house. I saw him that Monday, and he said that he got extremely drunk. That's it.
On 9/26, which was the first day I went to the Boys and Girls Club, this was when the early stages of gender and power struggles came out within the Boys and Girls Club. As we arrived, we went to the gym, and there was a bunch of girls sitting on a mat in the corner of the gym. And as we walked into the gym, we noticed that these boys, who were in different ages, different heights, different weights, were throwing dodgeballs at these girls while they were sitting down. And then we noticed as the bigger boys would get closer to the girls, they would be throwing balls, shoes. The younger boys, the littler boys, would be following them, doing the same thing. And then when the power struggle switched was when the bigger girls started getting up and chasing these boys and beating them up, throwing them to the ground, and then it would just keep happening over and over again. These girls would just run up and beat these little boys up and then run back to the mat. And that's when I first realized that gender and power struggles do go on within the Boys and Girls Club.
Many times when I went to the Boys and Girls Club, I'd be working behind the snack stand, and I'd cook the kids like French fries, and sell them chips, stuff like that. And a lot of times, kids would be begging me for food because they just didn't have money. They'd be hungry. They just got out of school, and I felt bad because I couldn't give them the food they wanted because I can get in trouble. And the Boys and Girls Club just doesn't have the funding for that. So they actually they had to start sending the kids home at 5 p.m. so that they'd go home and they could get dinner, and then they'd come back after because too many kids were trying to steal food and then they just didn't have the money. And this is an example of the socioeconomic status that the Boys and Girls Club serves to, and how without the proper funding they won't be able to provide for these kids.
So my very first experience at the Boys and Girls Club, I addressed a 16-year-old kid, and he told me about how every kid that went to the Boys and Girls Club was a scumbag, and scumbag is associated with a lower economic status, hence where the Boys and Girls Club comes into play, because the upper and lower deck. The lower deck was where the Boys and Girls Club was found.
I'm hungry. On October 27th, I was working in the snack bar, and I encountered an awkward situation. I was talking to some other kids, asked if they needed help, wanted any food or whatever. And this girl came up to me and started rubbing her head against my shoulder.
This is where I used professionalism and told her that that was inappropriate behavior.